Hello friends, today we have prepared a special gift for you. This is an original story based on your comments. Today we will show you how humanity revenged. Humans may be weak individually, but they can unite into a single fist. As an example, even extraterrestrial life knows about the power of the human spirit. Even gods can be afraid of human unity. The main thing is to make sure all people hear the call to action at the same time. You can check out other videos with such stories on our channel, and if you like it, don't forget to subscribe. Well then let's go. Space, cold, silent, endless, yet for Commander Vex Tyrrell of the Car Empire, this silence was not peace, it was conquest. In front of him on the main screen of the bridge, the target of his empire's 38th crusade was getting smaller and smaller. The pale blue dot was called Earth, a primitive world, barely a century in space. Weak, helpless, it would be their 38th conquest. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the ship's systems and the soft sigh of the cold void flowing past the viewport. But the calm did not bring any relaxation. The commander was too busy enjoying the imminent victory. CommanderVex.com/arrogant, a small race, barely a century old. I think the elders were right. We must put an end to these primitives. If left alone, they would become a threat. Commander, we're approaching the system's edge. Soon we'll be able to enter warp drive. Then the destruction of the planet will be instantaneous. Excellent. While they sleep peacefully, dreaming of being gods among the ants, let's give them a present. Open a view of the planet. Focus on the population center. Good Commander, the target is in sight. The ideal place for our first strike is Beijing. There are more than 20 billion people there. Such a spectacular entrance will certainly impress the rest of the species. Let's see what kind of pathetic resistance they'll put up. As soon as he said those words, the deep voice of the alien commander died away. On the screen, the beautiful blue marble swam closer and closer. It spun majestically, hiding its secrets and mysteries from prying eyes. Vex had studied countless planets and stars, but something about this one fascinated him. He couldn't tear his eyes away from it. Vex smirking, fools, no one has ever resisted the Coho. All planets eventually fall to their knees before us, begging for mercy. But that fate awaits not only planets. Entire galaxies tremble before the might of the Cal. A small and proud race is no exception. They have only one sun, and it is dying, which means their end is near, and we're here to help them. So sad. Fire one shot. Let them taste fear before surrender. A high-pitched whine split the air. It grew louder and louder, turning into a terrible roar. On the main screen, a bright beam suddenly tore through the darkness. It looked like a huge white-hot spear. It rushed towards the target at incredible speed. The beam carved through the sky, a lance of white fire that could pierce the toughest armor, and when it struck Beijing, the city vanished. The last thing the inhabitants of the megacity saw was a white-hot spear tearing apart the night sky. A crater, 3 kilometers wide, smoldered where millions had once lived. Everything went exactly as the conqueror had planned, but for some reason, the triumphant smile on the commander's face faltered. He stared silently at the dying embers of the city. The usual euphoria of the hunt, the excitement of the impending victory over a powerful enemy, all of it was gone. The only sound that could be heard was the soft sigh of the void. But the silence wasn't peaceful, it was deathly still. It pressed down on the bridge like a shroud. The crew of the ship sensed their commander's unusual mood and kept silent, each immersed in their own thoughts. The heavy silence was broken only by the creak of the ship's metal. Then the captain spoke, his voice unusually grim. "What do we have?" "Silence. They should be screaming." "Yes, sir. Nothing. All communications are dead." "Good. Let's wait a bit longer. After all, they still have plenty of time to beg for mercy." Just a few minutes passed, but they seemed like hours to the crew of the ship. Suddenly, an officer shouted in a panic, "Commander, incoming transmission, unknown source." The faces of the officers watching the transmission were full of confusion and apprehension. On the screen, a strange symbol gradually emerged. It looked like a distorted version of the car emblem, but something was different. Vex waved his hand, giving the order to continue the transmission. What? Another transmission? Why? They know they're doomed. There's no point in stalling for time. "Yes, sir." "Incoming message from the President of the United Nations." The faces of the officers watching the transmission were now full of surprise and disbelief. Everyone on the bridge gasped as the alien's amused smirk widened. Finally, some entertainment. Let's watch together. The image on the screen began to clear. A man appeared in front of the stunned aliens, his face serious and resolute. He didn't look like he was begging for mercy or pleading for his people. "This is the President of the United Nations. Our planet is under attack by the Car Empire, but we are ready to defend it. Be prepared because we will fight until the last breath. And even if we cannot defeat you, we will drag as many of you as possible down with us." As the last words of the message echoed through the bridge, a low rumble shook the metal beneath their feet. "What is that noise? Is this a joke? They haven't started fighting yet. Are they crazy? Don't be ridiculous." Of course they're crazy. They don't know how powerful the KL are, but it's entertaining to watch. The KO are known throughout the galaxy as merciless conquerors, as ruthless warriors who leave nothing but ashes in their wake. But they underestimated the humans. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently. An alarm shrieked through the bridge. The lights flickered ominously. Then the harsh voice of the alien officer cut through the chaos. "Commander, unknown objects detected. Hundreds of launchers from the ocean. Their fleet is enormous." Vex's face contorted in anger. His eyes flashed with rage and disbelief. "Impossible. How can they resist us?" "What?" From the depths of the ocean, strange objects emerged, slowly but surely. These were not spaceships, sleek and swift. No, these were behemoths, massive and menacing. They were submarines. At first they were just black dots on the radar, but then they grew larger and larger. The screens flickered, displaying hundreds of blips, 1, 2, 5, 10, 15. They were coming out of the water at an alarming rate, and the aliens could do nothing but watch helplessly as the humans unleashed their fury. Then the alarms changed their tune. The harsh voice cut through the chaos once again. "Sir, more launchers, thousands coming from everywhere. Kinetic strikes, missiles, railguns." The massive alien ship shuddered, rocked by the sheer force of the impact. The sensors fled, overloaded by the sudden barrage, and the worst was yet to come. "Sir, the shields are dropping fast. They've breached our defenses." "Shields at 72%, 64-58. The officer cried out in alarm. Meanwhile, inside the belly of the beast, the heart of the Ka flagship throbbed dangerously. Its rhythmic pulse faltered, mirroring the erratic dance of the shields. Every new salvo chipped away at their defenses, bringing them closer to the precipice of destruction. And as if sensing their vulnerability, the humans intensified their assault. The humans continued their relentless assault, determined to inflict maximum damage on their enemy. Their attacks were precise, powerful, and unrelenting. The officers on the bridge watched in horror as the shield meter plummeted. Each salvo brought them closer to catastrophe. With a deafening roar, a new wave of energy slammed into the ship's shields. This time they didn't hold. A jolt shook the bridge, throwing the officers off balance. The lights flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows on their panicked faces. Vex roared in frustration, his face twisted in a mask of rage and disbelief. "Impossible. They should be begging for mercy. Why aren't they afraid? What sorcery is this?" But the humans didn't beg for mercy. They didn't show fear. Instead, a face appeared on the viewscreen.com, resolute, filled with grim determination. It was the face of a leader who refused to back down in the face of insurmountable odds, and that leader was not the President of the United Nations. "We were never meant to wage war. We were born for it. This is General Howard Reeves of the United Earth Defense Coalition. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from orbit or we respond with full military force." Silence. Then the heartbeat of the ship's engine hummed back to life. For the first time in his career, Commander Vex felt something alien to him. Not pride, not victory, but fear. Because humanity wasn't born for war. We were made for it. Our nukes lit up the sky, but they couldn't break through their shields. Our fighters swarmed them, but they couldn't penetrate their armor. And our missiles tracked and locked on, but they couldn't breach their defenses. They stood no chance against us. Or so we thought. Earth hung in the void, its blue marble visage marred by scars of battle. The colossal alien fleet hung like a predator poised to strike. At the heart of it all, a trio of hulking cruisers dominated. Each one bristled with weaponry that had ripped apart entire continents in an instant. Humanity's last stand was in full force, yet our enemies were just getting warmed up. The cruiser opened fire, unleashing bolts of energy that split our cruisers in half. One by one, our ships fell victim to this onslaught. The tide of war had turned. They had come to claim Earth as their own, and soon it would be theirs for the taking. All hope seemed lost until a calm voice cut through the chaos. "This is General Howard Reeves of the United Earth Defense Coalition. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from orbit or we respond with full military force." The aliens halted their attack, confusion rippling through their ranks. They couldn't believe their ears. What was this primitive species babbling about? Did they really think they could fight back after showing such weakness? Reeves continued, his voice unwavering. "This is General Howard Reeves of the United Earth Defense Coalition. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from orbit or we respond with full military force." The silence stretched, broken only by the crackling of the comms and the hiss of static. Then the heartbeat of the ship's engine hummed back to life. For the first time in his career, Commander Vex felt something alien to him. Not pride, not victory, but fear. Because humanity wasn't born for war. We were made for it. Missiles streaked upward, carving trails of fire through the atmosphere. The alien fleet reeled under the impact. Their shields cracked, their formation wavered. An alien officer shouted, "Commander, we've lost 2 escort ships. Human projectiles bypassed our countermeasures." Vex snarled, "They're primitives. How are their weapons this precise?" It wasn't precision, it was preparation. For centuries humans had warred with themselves, every weapon refined, every defense tested. And now, all of it turned outward. More missiles slammed into the cruisers, each explosion a testament to human tenacity. The cruisers staggered, their hulls breached, their systems overloaded, but still they fought, their weapons blazing, their determination unwavering. The 3rd ship down, the aliens regrouped, but they were on the back foot now, their confidence shaken. On Earth, billions watched, held captive by the spectacle unfolding above. Hope flickered, then flared, refusing to be extinguished. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Their leader snarled, his face contorted with rage and fear. They dared defy us, crush them, let none remain. His order echoed through the fleet, and for a moment all was chaos and destruction. But as the humans struck again and again, something changed in the alien ranks. Confusion, doubt, even fear began to take root. They had underestimated these tenacious primitives. Now they paid the price. As the battle raged, the humans suffered heavy losses, but with each fallen comrade, their resolve hardened. They fought not just for territorial resources but for survival. Then came the boarding actions. Human commandos descended upon the enemy ships, wreaking havoc in the corridors and turning the alien advantage in firepower against them. Explosions rocked the corridors, laser fire sizzled. The aliens were caught off guard, their defenses crumbling before the relentless assault. The humans fought with the fury of cornered wolves, biting and clawing until their very last breath. As the battle reached its climax, both sides suffered heavy losses. Ships were crippled, hulls breached, and the void grew filled with the debris of war. But amidst the carnage, a turning point emerged. Human forces, though battered, refused to yield. The aliens, though enraged, began to falter. And in the heart of it all, aboard the flagship, chaos reigned. Alarms blared, red lights strobed, and the stench of burning metal filled the air. The bridge was a scene of frantic activity. Officers barked orders, but it was clear their cool confidence had evaporated. They were outgunned, outmaneuvered, and most importantly shields at 27%. An officer shouted, his voice tight with tension. "Breaches in sections 12 through 15. We're losing life support in section 14. Commander, we must fall back." But Vex snarled, "No, we crush them here. Full power to weapons. Target those boarding parties. I want them dead." The desperation in his voice betrayed his fierce exterior. He knew retreat was their only option, but his pride wouldn't allow it. Yet even as he spoke, the bridge shuddered violently. "What the hell was that?" he roared. His gaze swept the room, seeking answers. As if in response, the view screen exploded with light. A massive vessel loomed, bathing the bridge in an eerie glow. It was majestic, imposing, and utterly terrifying from the shadows of the moon. Something stirred, hidden for decades. Buried deep beneath lunar rock, Earth's secret orbital defense platforms awoke, and as the alien fleet regrouped, readying one final, desperate attack, the railguns powered up, firing a broadside that shook the solar system. The monstrous slug slammed into the alien behemoth, tearing through its hull and shattering its shield. The mighty flagship staggered, its systems overloaded, its crew decimated. The hunters knew, for the first time, what it was to be hunted. An officer cried out, "Shields at 43%, internal fire spreading. Commander, we're taking on water. We have to abandon ship." But it was too late. The humans were upon them, pouring out of escape pods, their weapons primed, their eyes blazing with grim determination. They had waited centuries for this moment, and they weren't about to let it slip away. Inside the flagship, panic surged. Desperate pleas crackled over the intercom, the stench of fear mingling with the coppery temps of blood. The humans fought with the ferocity of cornered predators, clawing, biting, tearing with a primal rage that knew no bounds. The aliens, once so arrogant, so sure of their superiority, were now drowning in a sea of teeth and claws. The battle raged across the void, a brutal ballet of death and destruction. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, the outcome became clear. Humanity, bruised, battered, but unbroken, had turned the tide. They had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. And then, when all hope seemed lost, they did the unthinkable. They boarded. Drop pods streaked across the void, slamming into the alien hull. Doors blew open, and from the smoke, humans emerged. On board the car flagship, an alien officer screamed in horror. There inside the ship, moments later, a squad of car troops ran screaming from the dropship bay, blasting their way through the open doors. Inside, more human soldiers poured out of the smoke, their guns spitting fire. One of the car soldiers fired wildly, clipping a bulkhead and sending sparks flying. A human soldier grunted as he hit the deck, diving behind a nearby crate. His helmet cracked, revealing a determined face. He wasn't hurt badly, just shaken. Shaking himself off, he returned fire, pushing forward behind the cover of a crate. Another alien soldier let out a battle cry, charging forward, firing his plasma rifle into the human's position. He emptied his weapon, then another clip before turning tail and running. Meanwhile, a human officer shouted above the din, "Clear left. Push forward." As the humans moved out, more drop pods slammed into the side of the ship, disgorging fresh troops onto the bridge. The car had never seen anything like it. Their prey was supposed to cower and submit, not fight back with such ferocity. A Marine holding a shotgun blasted a hole through an advancing enemy, sending him sprawling backward. He rolled over slowly, smoke coming from the smoking hole in his chest. Then he froze. The human looked down at his fallen foe, then holstered his weapon. He wanted to ask what the hell these creatures were doing in his world, why they had attacked his people, but he knew he wouldn't get an answer. He turned back to the fight, ignoring the disturbing fact that the creature hadn't even tried to defend itself. Commander Vex stood frozen, watching the humans pour out of the dropships, pouring out of every available crack in the ship's hull. These aliens, these primitives, how could they be so effective? How could they fight like this? As he watched, horrified, one of his troops stumbled out of the corridor, clutching his arm, blood soaking his armor. "It's too many," he gasped, collapsing to the floor. "We can't win," the commander snarled, moving to cut him down. He would have done it too if he hadn't been so stunned by what he was seeing. He shook his head clear and barked orders. He had to believe his warriors could win this, that there was a way out of this disaster. But where? He couldn't see any. It didn't make sense. He should have crushed these creatures like bugs, wiped them out before they even knew what had hit them. Instead, he was barely holding on. Meanwhile, inside the bridge, the humans battled their way closer and closer to the command crew. 2 Marines burst through the door to find the car captain fending off for attackers. One of the aliens was down, but 3 more advanced on the captain, who was trapped between them and the door. The lead warrior lunged forward, slamming his shield into the captain's weapon, knocking it aside. The other 2 aliens followed up with vicious attacks, forcing the captain back toward the door. He cursed under his breath as he backed away. Now he was trapped. Was this it? Was he going to die here? The answer to both questions was yes. He'd die here all right, but not today. With a grunt, he ducked under a wild swing and smashed his fist into the lead attacker's jaw. The alien crumpled, giving the captain just enough space to turn and run. The humans had breached the bridge, and the captain knew there was no hope of escape. Unless the reinforcements could arrive in time, the car were doomed. But then he heard a voice booming across the bridge. "Stand fast, my brothers. This day is ours for the taking." The captain spun around to see a huge warrior striding toward him, his massive weapon blasting apart anyone unlucky enough to get in its way. The humans were almost upon him, behind him. The crew scrambled for the exits, fighting to save themselves, but the warrior stayed put, firing his weapon until it was empty. Then he dropped it, drew a blade the size of a man, and charged into the fray. The captain smiled grimly. He liked this warrior. He was a worthy opponent, someone to respect. Maybe death wouldn't be so bad after all. But then he saw something that made him freeze. He'd seen that look before. That wasn't respect or admiration. That was pure hatred. The humans weren't fighting for their lives. They weren't scared or desperate. They were angry. He saw the same look in the eyes of the warrior as he charged into the thick of the battle. The humans had numbers on their side, but the car had power. Their armor was thicker, their weapons stronger, their bodies larger. But still, somehow, the humans pushed forward, and as they did, they began to broadcast a message across the alien flagship. "Attention all car aboard this vessel," the voice boomed. "You look at us and see primitives, weak, fragile, but you don't understand. We weren't born for war, but we were forged by it. We were not born with weapons, but we have learned how to make the deadliest weapons the galaxy has ever seen. You have found the one species in the galaxy that will not bend before the might of the Ka. You found us, and now we are ending you." In the midst of the battle, the humans paused and listened to their captain's words. What she said was true. They had been born on a violent world, and violence was their only constant. There were billions of humans, but no two were alike. Except for one thing: no matter who you were, where you came from, what you believed, you had a fighting chance. And if you took that fighting chance and ran with it, you could become anything you wanted. Anyone. You could rise from nothing to become a hero. All you needed was grit, determination, and a little help from your friends. They had come together to fight back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. Together they were strong. Alone, they were unstoppable. Across the ship, the car froze as they heard the humans' words. It was true. They had underestimated their prey. They had thought the humans would break, but they were stronger than they had believed. Commander Vex stood staring at the battlefield, realizing the truth of the humans' words. They had been born for war, forged in the fires of countless battles. He had faced down entire armies alone and lived to tell the tale. He had stared death in the face and laughed. There was no one in the galaxy who could match the humans' tenacity. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The humans pressed forward, fighting with a fury born not of desperation, but of experience. As they fought, the humans continued to broadcast their message, reminding the Ka of their strength, of their resilience. And the more the Ka fought back, the more those words echoed through the ship, through the smoke and steel. The humans were like predators, and the Ka were trapped in their own den. The predator had come for them, and soon it would be finished. The humans reached the captain and found him standing over a pile of dead warriors. Beside him stood the giant, his weapon propped against a nearby bulkhead. He was unarmed, but that didn't bother the humans. They knew better than to underestimate their enemies. And then it happened. A single Marine crept closer to the captain, his gun raised. "I got him," he whispered, but as he pulled the trigger, the captain struck, knocking the gun away. The Marine spun around, eyes wide with surprise. "How?" he breathed. "How did you do that?" The captain smiled grimly. "I've been waiting for you humans," he said. "I know your kind, I know your tricks. I'm not afraid of you." The Marine stared back at him, disbelief etched on his face. "You shouldn't be," the captain said. "I'm just getting warmed up." The Marine laughed, shaking off his disbelief. "Then show me what you got, alien," he said. And with that, the battle began anew. The humans surged forward, fighting with everything they had. They knew they couldn't win this battle with brute force alone. They had to use their brains, their skills, their experience. And as they fought, the captain watched them closely. He knew these humans. He knew their strengths and their weaknesses. He knew how to beat them. And as the battle raged on, he began to formulate a plan that would end this war once and for all. The alien flagship, crippled, burning, surrounded, had no choice. All weapons offline, all defenses depleted. Their only hope was to surrender, but pride is a hard thing to swallow. And so Commander Vex opened a channel. His voice was bitter, shaky with restrained rage. "Humans, what are you? No species fights like this. You should not exist." He spat out the last word like a curse. He hated it. He hated these creatures who defied his glorious care. He hated their tenacity, their courage, their sheer bloody-minded stubbornness in the face of defeat. General Reeves answered with quiet calm. "We are human, and we will not bow." He paused, letting the words sink in. "You came for conquest. You will leave with a choice. Ally with us against the slavers or be destroyed by us." Those words hit home. They stunned the Ka commander. Never before had prey dictated terms. None of his warriors would accept such humiliation, but even Vex, proud as he was, knew truth when he saw it. His fleet was dying, his soldiers broken, and Earth still stood, her armies unbowed, her spirit unbroken. And the realization dawned on him that if he didn't do something drastic, he and his entire fleet would be dead. So he did the unthinkable. He surrendered. A tense peace settled over the battlefield as the care ships slowly, cautiously began to lower their weapons. Survivors on both sides started to emerge from their shelters, blinking in the sudden light of day, their faces grim with exhaustion and loss. As Earth's forces secured the smoking wreckage of the alien fleet, they found more prisoners, thousands of them, tough battle-hardened soldiers, seasoned warriors, their faces a mixture of shock and sullen acceptance. None were as important as the one whose capture had been personally orchestrated by General John Reeves. Vex, the Corps commander, his armor scorched and damaged, his right arm hanging uselessly at his side, missing its hand. He was brought before the human general. Some of his men wanted to kill him, but they were held back by others who thought the prisoner too valuable to risk losing. When he was shoved roughly onto his knees before the humans, his jaw tight, his eyes defiant, Reeves watched him impassively. Neither man said a word for a long time, each studying the other, sizing up the strengths and weaknesses of an enemy who had proven to be much tougher than they had first appeared. Reeves was the first to speak. "You have fought well, Cor. Better than I expected. In fact, you almost won, and if it hadn't been for your arrogance, you would have." Vex looked up sharply at that, surprise momentarily erasing the bitterness from his features. "What do you mean?" he demanded. Reeves smiled grimly. "You could have taken our planet, defeated our forces, claimed our resources, but you chose conquest, and for that you have paid the price." For a moment, Vex seemed about to argue. Then he sighed, the fight draining out of him. "I concede the point," he admitted reluctantly. "Your species is an embarrassment to the wider galaxy. Soft, weak, squishy things that huddle behind walls and attack with poisons and illusions instead of weapons. Yet you have survived, and now you threaten me with annihilation. We offer you a place at our side, Cor, an alliance against the slavers." He paused, gauging the reaction. "So tell me, how does that sound?" It was the alliance that shocked the galaxy. Most races simply couldn't comprehend it. The warlike Car and expansionist humans joined together. How could they put aside centuries of rivalry and bloodshed to stand together? The answer was simple. Because they had no other choice. The Care were battered, their numbers decimated, their best soldiers captured and enslaved. Their flagship, the Avatar, was a smoldering wreck. They needed Earth's help to escape the slavers, and Earth needed the Care's military might to fend off any other invaders while she rebuilt her fleet. It was a union forged in necessity, tempered in battle, and bound by a common enemy. But as the fires burned low and Earth stood victorious, new signals were detected. Ships bigger, deadlier, not Car, something worse. The alien officer gripped the arm of his command chair, his eyes wide with terror. "Commander, they're here. The slavers, they're sending in the heavy guns. Please, we don't stand a chance. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. It's too late now." His commander, the once proud Vex Chiral, now shorn of his rank insignia and stripped of his power, looked up at the incoming ships with grim resignation. "Hold your fire," he ordered quietly. "There's nothing left to shoot at. The Avatar is crippled, our shields are down and our weapons are depleted. There's nothing we can do." He closed his eyes, bracing himself for oblivion. Suddenly the comms crackled to life. General Reeves' voice, calm and resolute, echoed through the bridge. "All Earth units, cease fire. Repeat, cease fire. Turn your weapons to the north, we have company." As the slaves watched in stunned silence, the humans turned their weapons toward the newcomers. They weren't the slavers, not yet. But the massive warships pouring through the system, the dozens of them, reeked of the same filth, the same corruption, the same bloodlust. "Who are they?" one of the slaves whispered, his voice hoarse with fear. "They're worse," the Karak replied grimly. "The Karak are predators, but the Union, they are slaughter." When the Union ships descended on the battlefield, it was to a massacre. Dozens of enemy vessels lay smoking and crippled, trapped in the gravitational pull of the planet. The Union cruiser, the Harbinger, cut a swath through the alien fleet, its engines roaring, its lasers spitting fire, its missiles screaming as they slammed into the enemy ships one after another, ripping them apart. On the bridge of the Harbinger, Captain Alaric watched the carnage unfold with cold amusement. His gaze was fixed on the helpless prey before him, their doomed faces reflected in his eyes like a predator regarding its dinner. "Easy prey," he murmured, savoring the moment. "So pathetically weak, and yet so deliciously flavorful. Oh, I can't wait to tear them apart." As the last of the alien fleet exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the surviving ships scattering like rats from a sinking ship, the victorious humans in Care prepared for the inevitable counterattack. General Reeves was grim. "The real battle begins now. Everything we've done so far has been just a prelude. The slavers were only the opening act. The Union isn't here to conquer. They're here to eradicate, to wipe us out completely." He turned to his captive audience. "Do you understand what I am saying? This isn't about conquest anymore, it's about survival. If we don't stop the Union, they will enslave every living thing on this planet, every last human and every last core." Vex nodded slowly, understanding dawning on his face. "Why did they send the Union? They know we are stronger together than we are apart, because they think we won't stand together," the general replied. "They think we'll turn on each other, that we'll destroy ourselves before we unite. But they are wrong. We may have our differences, but we have more in common. We both have a proud heritage. We both love our people, and we both hate slavery. As the last embers of the defeated fleet faded into the blackness of space, leaving behind a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered dreams, the survivors prepared to do battle again. Their enemies were stronger, more ruthless, more determined. But the humans in the care were fighting for more than just territory or resources. They were fighting for freedom, for independence, for the right to determine their own future. And as they stood side by side, facing the darkness together, they knew that whatever the cost, they would not surrender. In the end, it wasn't just the car and the humans who stared into the abyss. The Union too was forced to confront the darkness within itself. And in that moment of reckoning, humanity proved that sometimes the greatest victory is not winning a battle, but becoming something greater than you ever imagined possible.